It was now a criminal offence to sell someone a pound of bananas. A system of language, a system of weights and measures being struck off because of Brussels.
Did you vote to leave or remain?
Leave.
Leave.
Of course.
I'm not surprised.
Of course.
You're one of the EU's victims.
No.
Saved. Britain can keep the pound, pint, gallon and the mile. And I do think, you know, that your dad started this. Metric Martyr who died fighting Brussels.
And we're just going to make sure that it is.
Yeah.
He does get his pardon.
I'm here in Granger Market in Newcastle. Now, after the 2016 EU referendum, many people were left asking why? Why are we leaving the European Union? But the thing is that Euroscepticism didn't appear as though out of the thin air. It started somewhere else. It started, I would argue, here in the northeast of England. Today I'm going to the heart of a story which looks at why people distrust and maybe even dislike the European Union. It's a story of 5 ordinary people who took on the might of the Brussels machine and the British state. It's the story of the Metric Martyrs. The story of the Metric Martyrs begins with a man called Steve Thoburn. 20 years ago, Thoburn, a greengrocer from Sunderland, was raided by the police. The officers seized 3 sets of scales from his market stall, used normally for weighing bananas. Thoburn was later convicted under new EU laws which had just been adopted in Britain. His crime? Using scales which failed to show metric units and instead displayed imperial measurements. Thoburn had become a criminal for refusing to use grams and kilograms in his shop. He had become the first of the so-called Metric Martyrs. We're here in Sunderland where the battle for the Metric Martyrs began. Steve Thoburn is sadly no longer with us, but we're here to meet Georgia, his daughter. Hi Georgia.
Hi Chris.
How are you doing?
Fine, how's yourself?
Yeah, long journey up.
I can imagine.
Yeah, but we're here. This is where the Metric Martyrs battle started.
It did, it all started here. Do you want to come in and have a look?
Yes, please. Thank you. Thanks, Georgia. So you've got some cuttings out of the files of the campaign.
Yeah, we have. There's lots here.
So it was Sunderland Echo, and then it kind of exploded into a national story.
It did, yeah.
War on scales of injustice, and there's the same picture of your dad there, with his scales here, which were at the heart of the whole thing. What do you think of your dad being convicted? It's crazy, isn't it, for serving customers?
It's crazy to think he was convicted because he wanted to give his customers what they wanted. They didn't come in and ask for a kilo of bananas, they wanted a pound of bananas. Nobody ever knew what a kilo was around Sunderland. I don't know about the rest of the country, but it was everyone, his customers were always pounds and ounces, never kilos.
And there's your dad on the front page of the Telegraph in January 2001. Accused of selling bananas by the pound. Prosecution bought to protect the public.
It's crazy because the public wanted it in pounds and ounces. That's what my
dad
dad was fighting for.
He was doing what the customers wanted. He wasn't doing it for a reason to be difficult.
He wasn't doing it for him. He wasn't, no.
Britain voted to leave the European Union in 2016. Is this unfinished business?
It is, yeah. I feel like it's the final push. We've come out of the EU. Now I think we're really ready for it all just to be finalised. It just needs to be finished with. It's been going on far too long, and my dad doesn't really need that conviction against his name, does he?
Very sadly, your dad died. Was it a great shock to you at the time, and how did you cope with that?
It was just something that, I was only 7 at the time, so I think it was something really hard to comprehend when I was younger, and especially all of the Metric Martyr stuff was still going on. It was pretty fresh when he'd passed away. It was just something that I would never ever think would happen. It was so sudden. And growing up now, he really made us realise how much of a hard worker he was, and I aspire to be just like him. He was amazing.
And there we have, finally, saved. Britain can keep the pound, pint, gallon and the mile. And I do think, you know, that your dad started this. Metric Martyr who died fighting Brussels. That's your dad, and that's totally amazing, I think.
It's amazing to think my dad was the one that really did. He's pushed it, and then obviously everyone since has all continued it, and we're just going to make sure that it is. Yeah. He does get his pardon.
Neil Herron, who was a friend of Thoburn, has campaigned for 2 decades for the martyrs' convictions to be overturned. He was with Steve the day after his stall was raided.
There'd been an undercover consumer protection exercise gone on, and someone had come in and bought 34 pence worth of bananas, and Steve had actually weighed them on imperial scales, so he was effectively being done for selling bananas by the pound. And he was visited by 2 trading standards officers, accompanied by 2 police officers who threatened to arrest him if he didn't hand over his scales.
In 2000, the British government adopted an EU directive into UK law, which meant that traders must display metric units or face criminal charges. Steve Thoburn became the first of 5 to be prosecuted under these new rules, which caused many, for the first time, to question the influence of Brussels in Britain. Can you draw a line from the Metric Martyrs cases to the decision to leave in the European Union in 2016?
Yes, I mean, this was the first time that the British public was able to touch and feel something that had come from the EU, that had emanated from the EU. For Steve, his face was recognised everywhere. He was the face of the campaign. Coming down to the High Court in London, he would get into a taxi drivers wouldn't take any money off him. First time we went into the Royal Courts of Justice on the Strand, the security guards clapped, gave him a round of applause as he came in. So this was an ordinary working class man of the people who was fighting up for everybody. And this was us against the system, us against bureaucracy, and it was a fight that was always going to be won in the hearts of the people.
Steve and Neil attempted to appeal the case all the way up to the European Court of Human Rights. However, they failed to overturn their conviction. And then, in 2004, tragedy struck.
We sat in Steve's van shortly after receiving the decision, and we reflected on it and said to Steve, well, it's up to you. What do you want to do? He says, I'm just going to continue serving my customers the way they need to be served. Which we just sat there, he was quite poignant and reflective. He says, will you make sure that you continue the fight? He's quite reflective. And then 2 days later, Steve died. He had a massive heart attack Sunday morning. I got the phone call on the Sunday morning, and by the time I got to the house, he'd been taken away in the ambulance, and he was pronounced dead. And it was a massive shock to the family, to his customers, and to the British public as well, because this was a person who stood up to fight the system, representing everyone out there, and all that's left now is the pardon to clear his name.
Well, Neil, should we go and see what the traders in the Granger Market in Newcastle think about Steve Thoburn and his fight for the right to sell an imperial?
Absolutely.
There's 5 Metric Martyrs.
Yeah.
Steve obviously not with us anymore.
Yeah,
4 of them are with us.
Yeah.
They should all be pardoned, shouldn't they?
Of course, of course. What's the point? Why? It's absolutely disgraceful. It's stupid. Absolutely stupid.
Did you vote for Brexit?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
And why was that? Was that linked to this battle over pounds and ounces?
Well, it's not just that. It was just, I think we need to take back our own country sort of thing. Them need us as much as we need them. Simple as that.
Well, what are you selling in here? I can see.
Well,
You do it in bags. Is that how you get around not using pounds and ounces?
No, we still use, we bag stuff up, but on the inside we've got pounds. See, pounds
there, yes.
Pounds. And we've got kilos on as well.
But the kilos are very small and the pounds are bigger. That's breaking the rules, Bobby.
It's not breaking the rules. That's not breaking.
Tell me why it's not.
As long as that's wrote on a ticket, it's not breaking any rules.
Is that right?
That's right.
Do you know Steve?
I knew Steve very well. I know Neil very well as well. We worked in the same market for years. That's stress. That's how we died. That's my opinion. Because Steve, he was a lovely kid. Lovely kid, up the crack of dawn every morning, always there, always had a smile on his face, and always had the time of day for everybody. You know what I mean? And the stress that he went through with that was disgraceful.
And do you think he deserves a pardon then?
100%.
I'm going to buy a pound of bananas in memory of Steve Thoburn, along with a pound of apples and some raspberries. Pound of bananas?
You want a pound of bananas?
Yep, that is.
Right, well, yeah, over
Yep,
pound,
that's fine, I'll do.
1 pence in them. Right, you know.
There we are.
Just over your
That's
pound,
fine, yeah, that's
right?
it. There we are. A pound of bananas and a pound of apples in memory of Steve Thoburn. In 2001, just months after Steve Thoburn was prosecuted, a second Metric Martyr emerged, this time in London. I'm here in Ridley Road Market in Hackney, the scene of the crime, to meet a couple of those Metric Martyrs still around and still fighting to clear their name. Colin Hunt worked as a market trader and, just like Steve, he failed to display metric measurements in his shop.
Yeah, in the beginning, we had all our scales converted to kilos, great expense, these scales are in kilos, and then We priced big tickets in kilos, but the customers, majority of them are old West Indian or Chinese or whatever, real mixed race around here, and all the old people couldn't understand it. So what we did was we changed it around. We've done the tickets big display in pounds, but also smaller underneath in kilos.
So the crime, Colin, was the fact you were ticketing in pounds and ounces.
Yes.
And then converting it into kilos.
Yes.
For the law.
Yes.
But the customer wanted it in pounds and ounces.
Because they could not understand it. They could not
So
understand.
your crime was literally doing what your customers wanted to do.
Exactly.
8 years after Colin Hunt was raided by the police, Hackney Council decided to prosecute another trader in Ridley Road Market called Janet Devers.
We had Hackney Council market inspectors came up to my stall and just confiscated my scales.
Even though you had some grams and kilograms and some
Yes,
imperial, they took
yes.
the imperial.
They took the imperial and they left me the kilos.
And the key moment, Janet, was when you asked to be tried by a jury.
Yes.
And that was the moment the council said, right, we're going to end this prosecution.
Yes, they did, and we was in Snaresbrook Crown Court, and when I asked I wanted to be to the judge that I wanted to be tried by a jury, Hackney Council backed down.
Is that because they were worried about what public opinion might say? They might-
Yes, of course, because everybody was behind me at the time. I mean, letters and donations and everything. And as soon as I said that, they said the barristers were all talking together, and then the trial finished.
Although Janet managed to get 4 charges against her dropped, Hackney Council successfully prosecuted her under 8 charges of the Weights and Measures Act 1985. The EU directive adopted at the turn of the century had created yet another metric martyr. And Brexit happened in 2016. Did you vote to leave or remain?
Leave.
Leave.
Of course.
I'm not surprised.
Of course.
You're one of the EU's victims.
No, listen, I'm so happy, you know, I wish it happened 20 odd years ago, but I think the country's going to be better. We've got our own rules, regulation. We don't have to be dictated by what we can sell, what we can't do. You can't sell this, you can't do that, you can't weigh this. I think in the future it's going to be a better country, I really do.
Janet would end up being the last metric martyr to be convicted, bringing the total number of cases to 5.
Who's governing the country now? Well, I think we've opened the book for everybody in this country to understand now what the European Union and the whole of the European project's all about. This country's been lied to for the past 30 years by its elected representatives, and these 5 men who stood here today have proved exactly what's gone on.
Some see the cases of the metric martyrs as the beginning of Brexit. And there's no question it was the archetypal example of the little guys against the big state machine. But to this day, the metric martyrs remain convicted criminals. And maybe now Britain has left the European Union, it is time that they were given the justice they've waited for so long.